Welcome. Welcome to my 2 cent. I'm Chris, and let's talk. So I've told you I can guide you to self-love, or at least try to. The idea of this being that I'm just sharing with you my own personal journey. Um, Sharing with you how I found self-love for myself, the journey that took me there, and the lessons that I've learned along the way to the best of my ability. That's really all I offer. Uh, and in that, there's guidance. Uh, Hopefully, some of it you can apply to yourself. Hopefully, you pick up little tools, tips, and tricks that will help you along the way. So, before we begin this journey, I'd like to speak about self love a little bit more, and especially the test that I spoke about previously. Um, Now, there are levels to self love. The type that I speak of is the highest of levels, where it is nothing but absolute self love for yourself. That means you have gone through your entire past, accounted for all of it, forgave what needed to be forgiven, let go of what did not belong, and are at peace and acceptance with the rest. Full acceptance, love with your entire past, all the good, all the bad, especially the bad, especially the darker moments, and especially the moments that you're not proud of within yourself, things that you may have done that you harbor feelings for, emotions towards, regret. These are important. For as long as these remain there, then you are not to that highest of level. You're not truly loving all of yourself. You're still on the journey, very much so, because that is the biggest part of the journey, really. If I'm going to be frank about it, that is the biggest part of the journey, is going through the entirety of your own personal journey and sorting it all out proper and giving it all the respect that it deserves, the time that you didn't give it the first go around, and learning how to understand it, how to understand why it happened. There's always a why. And seeing it from a perspective that allows true healing and release of said energy, which brings you closer to self-love, bit by bit, baby step by baby step. This is a journey of a thousand. This is a journey of millions of baby steps. Maybe not millions. Maybe a million baby steps. It's baby step, baby step, baby step. A couple of more than a couple of large granddaddy steps backwards. More baby steps forward. I've always told myself, to help myself through this process, that perfection is not the aim ever. Consistency with the process is, you know, what you should strive for. That is what will take you and carry you through this process, is consistency, because you're going to fall off. You're going to take steps backwards. You're going to get into a really deep spot and need a break. It's too much for right now. Maybe there's something else that needs to align in your life to help you through the next leg of the journey. But yeah, you'll find it. And consistency is what will get you there. When you fall off, when you get off the train, just make sure you get back on. Make sure you get back on and stay with it. You're gonna fall off again. Get back on. It's worth it. It's difficult, but it's better than, well, it's better than where you're at, or you wouldn't be trying to get somewhere else. So, so when I speak of this test, don't beat yourself up. I don't expect many people to pass. Truly, I really don't. Uh, I understand the rarity of what I found, um, and I am ever so grateful for it. Uh, I'm even more so grateful for the ability to share. And so yeah, don't be hard on yourself. That is not what this process is about. Patience, patience with yourself more than anything, because you're gonna need it, and you're worth it. You deserve it. Love yourself enough to give it to yourself. When you're going through this, it always helped me. I've always had a bad tendency to really beat myself up, to really tear myself apart. All of my many past self-worth wounds, and I'm a master at it. I know how to rip myself apart quicker than anybody else, almost. And it always helped me when I started to tear myself down, to tear myself apart, to uh, negate the effort that I was putting into what I was doing. It always helped for me to stop myself and mentally not capture, mentally be aware of what I was doing in the moment. That's a big part, to notice, to recognize when you are starting to participate in that behavior, right? And once you can start to notice it, then you can start to intercept it, and then you can start to change that response. And the way that I always found worked really well for me, as far as uh, accomplishing that, was I would think about it like this: if my best friend in the entire world, the person I loved and cared about oh so much, came to me with this issue, came to me uh, needing reassurance, needing comfort, just needing someone to talk to and express the difficulty of the situation they were going to in this process of self-improvement they were embarking on, how would I advise that best friend? What would I tell that best friend? Because I damn sure, I bet your ass it ain't tearing them apart. I bet you it ain't unless you're just that type of person. Well, then you might be in the wrong place, listening to me. Uh, but I bet you would advise them completely different. The words that you would give them would be completely different than you oftentimes give yourself. I know it was for me. But when I started to be able to realize I was uh, doing that, I began to learn how to change that, and I began to learn tools such as that little mind, that little thought experiment, to change my perspective of the situation. And if we're seeking self-love, right? Well, then who else should love yourself more than you? For you are you. There's no one else out there that should carry more love for yourself than you. Truly. And then that is our aim. Then we should speak to ourselves like we're our best friends, not our worst enemies. So, the test is difficult. It's going to be difficult, and you'll probably fail a lot. And You know, I just wanted to make sure I threw in the part about your past. You have to love all of yourself. That's not just physical. It's not just mental. It's all of it. It's the whole thing. It's the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. Right? Healing is about all three. True healing, any healing, because what is there? Untrue healing. So, healing requires effort on the fronts of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. So let's begin this journey, shall we? I'm gonna start off. I was 33 years old. This is at the peak of my most broken. And when I say broken, I mean physically, mentally, and spiritually. I grew up in a world of generational trauma, and a lot of it of all flavors and varieties. Um, from out the gate, from my very first memories, it has been mostly a repetitive cycle of said trauma, again and again and again. And when I got into when I became an adult, I just perpetuated that cycle myself. Uh, and so it was just more and more and more of the same for pretty much my life until about 33 uh, when I started this journey. And physically speaking, I was broken. Um, I've suffered from physical ailments from my early 20s, mainly localized around my back. It affected me a lot in my early 20s, but I always just, put my head down and push through it. I would go, I was in the military, so I would go and see the doctors there, but that didn't do much good. A little bit of Motrin 800 and send you on the way. Some really high anti-inflammatories if that didn't work, and yeah. So over time it just progressed. Eventually it turned into 3 herniated discs, L3, L4, L4, L5, L5S1. And then I turned into like a flat back syndrome or something like that, where you have no lower lordosis. You lack the curve in your lower back anymore. And then then I also I also hung myself from a rope swing by my left foot in my mid 20s, and I never touched the water. Uh, and it was from literally my left ankle. Um, yeah, it was not fun, and so that compounded on the already back issues that I had. It just really gave me a lot of issues in my left hip, especially in my entire left leg. Uh, but anyway, so by the time I'd reached 33, I'd pushed my body well past the breaking point so many times. Um, it wasn't even funny. And I've completely physically broken myself, and I was couch bound for more or less 2 years. Um, about 80% of my time spent on the couch. I could get up and do minor things, daily activities, going to the bathroom, cooking, chores, especially cleaning or something like that. I mean, putting my shoes on, became near impossible sometimes. So, And mentally, I was because of the trauma that I'd gone through. There was a whole slew of mental demons to work through, for a lack of better words. All the stuff of my past, I never knew how to sort through it. I always just did what everyone else did. You bottle that stuff up as quick as you possibly can. You put it in a dark closet inside yourself, and you don't ever crack that closet ever. You don't go back and look at it. It's bottled. It's safe. It's on a shelf. What harm can it do now, right? And I had closets, slap full closets. Um, Depression is something I struggled with greatly since my early 20s, if not my late teens. And suicidal, just being suicidal, and it never, obviously I'm here. But more the ideation portion of it, the thought process, playing the scenarios and you know that type of stuff. And from about my early 20s, that was always a mechanism close at hand. Whenever I got weak, and then again, and then eventually it was just always there, almost. So weak or not, I was always weak. So there you go. I was always weak, so it was always there. Um, but antidepressants. I went through years or medication. I'll get on that in a minute, but to help, right, to make it better. Uh, and spiritually, I had no connection to nothing at that time. Uh, my family wasn't a very religious family to begin with. I was raised in a Southern Baptist church, and I always struggled with it, you know. And then I think during my 20s, I all but put it down and just really didn't even think about it anymore. It definitely wasn't something there for me to help myself with during difficult times, for that is one of the greatest purposes it can serve. Hmm. Um, Spirituality, religion, that type of stuff. It is there to give you strength when you have none left, or when you think you have none left. It's there to remind you of the strength that you do contain. So I didn't have any of that. Not at that point yet. All right. Um, so yeah, medication. Yeah, with my back and stuff, I did the whole standard by the book thing through healthcare. Uh, I went to doctors regularly. I went to physical therapy. I did all the steroid injections. I did all the epidural injections. I mean, probably close to a dozen of those over the years. And now that I'm in a phase of healing, I actually kind of find that I think those did more harm than good. For I've had to relearn how to have function over a lot of the musculature in my lower back. Um, Now that could be just from sheer atrophy, right? And obviously, atrophy was there to have the present to develop the problems that I had in my lower back. But I wonder sometimes if those epidurals didn't play a part in shutting down uh, those nerves and such, or at least the proper communication of. I don't know. Anyway, though. So medication. I'd been on medication for probably 5 years ish. More than that with just painkillers, because I would take painkillers. I started taking painkillers in my early 20s to deal with the pain. And those were always easily prescribed, especially back then. And then it became, we went through that period where the opioid crisis, and they quit, prescribing painkillers so frivolously. Um, but then I was still, I had such a, I was messed up and always in pain. It was legit. And so, I was always on some type of pain medication. And for 5 years, though, I was on Cymbalta and gabapentin and I want to say tramadol is what they eventually switched me to. I think that kind of took over after the opioid crisis thing. It used to be Lortabs um, Lortabs. Not really Vicodin, but I don't know. Anyway, there was a few others that they gave me along the way, but Lortab was the main one, and then Tramadol was the one that I probably was on the longest. Uh, and so Cymbalta, Tramadol, gabapentin, and then the other two were just really high anti-inflammatories, if I'm not mistaken, something of that nature. And I did that for like 5 years, and I truly believe that was in the end of it all. That was probably killing me more than anything else was. Um, so, but we'll get to that. So that's a real down and dirty summation of my state of being at the age of 33. Uh, my the suicidal idealization, if I'm saying that correct, uh, that was at its peak during those times. Um, Absolutely, for sure. That was the peak of that. Like a slow build over a decade, if you could even call it a slow build, but definitely at its peak at 33. And so couch bound, suicidal. I didn't have no support structure at all, at all. No, I didn't really have any more friends. All of my friends had fallen away over time. That tends to happen when you're falling to the bottom of a hole. A lot of people disappear when you need them the most. And it's not purposeful. It's not by fault of their own. I don't think. I think they just do it because they don't know how, and it's just easier to deal with that way. Why go down with the sinking ship when you can't do anything to save it, or at least so you think. And so many ships sink, but not all. And that can change. You know, we can learn. We can be there for people in a more meaningful way. For we're gonna have to be. For this is this is a crisis that is upon us across our world, and it is a real. I don't even have words for it. It's affecting everybody now, even our kids. Which that just blows my mind how you can. I was young when I started having thoughts of it, and I thought at my late teens. I could not imagine even going through, and I went through hell as far as some of the stuff that was done to me, some of the traumas that I endured. Um, in my early years, like earliest years, even going through that, I could not imagine at that age uh, thinking that, even realizing that that was an option, even or thinking that that was an option. So it's a hard one for me to wrap my head around with, especially considering our youth. But it is a fact. I mean, and it's an increasing. I mean, I understand why. Don't get me wrong. I understand why in our modern world, in our modern society. I mean, it's literally half of what we're here to talk about. And eventually, it's my hope and uh, prayer that we make it through it all in a meaningful way that maybe helps somebody out there. Um, but yeah, so at the peak of that, and I've tried to talk to people here and there. I've had people ask me, especially uh, some closer friends along the way, or people that just needed some help. Um, I've tried to talk to them. Oh, that's and one question that always comes up, almost anyway, when I start talking about a healing journey that I've gone upon, that I have accomplished, is what was my what was the spark? What was the thing for the change? I mean, what was the moment? Because I guess I don't know why people search for that. I guess maybe so they can look for the moment in their own lives, or I suppose that's why. Makes sense, right? If you know what somebody else's moment was, well, maybe that moment can happen for you, or you'll be aware when you see it. Or more aware to it when you see it, or maybe you know what to aim for in making that moment happen for yourself. Yeah, so maybe that's it. But for me, my spark, the change, that made everything different. So there's not really one thing that I can point to. I mean, other than a moment of time where I was so uncomfortable with where I was at inside this vessel and on this on this planet, you know, uh, I couldn't no longer be there. And one way or the other, I was going to exit that spot, whether it be through suicide, as I was always flirting with the idea of, or something different. Um, and I think it takes that in most people's life. You have to finally reach a point where you are so uncomfortable with your state of being that you're desperate enough, for lack of better words, to finally finally open yourself up to the ability to see something from a different point of view. Um, in the desperation, you have to cling to every last seed of hope. And maybe that seed of hope will grow with nurturing and time. Um, so I can no longer be where I was at. Suicide was an option. I actually created, I don't want to die. You know, never did. It was just in my mind easier than what I was going through and where I was at. It was the easy way out. That's what it is. It was the easy way out of hell. But you don't realize in the moment that it is the religious or not, it is the guarantee to everlasting hell. for yourself and all those that loved you around, all those that loved you around you. So I came up with another option. My other option, and I laugh about it now because looking back, it's not silly, but it was out there, man. It was better than the first option, and I guess in my mind it accomplished. All right. So the other idea was that I was just going to disappear in the woods, right? I was just going to disappear in the woods for, I don't know, a few years, see what happens. And I wasn't disappearing in the woods to die either. I've lived my life outside and in the outdoors and grew up and in the way that I grew up, I know how to take care of myself, and I feel uh, relatively comfortable that I would be okay. Um, and that's truly how I saw it. So it wasn't that I was going in there to die. It was that I was going in there for the greatest reset possible. I figured I was so broken that the only way that I was ever going to fix myself is by just some massive reset, like a power on reset like unplugging a computer. I had to take myself out of every environment because I didn't where I was at by it was caused by so many different factors of my environment, right? And so that the only way I could see uh, quieting down all that input to where I could really focus on healing myself was to remove myself from all of it in the woods. And I had this idea I'd go in there for 3 years or so, and during this time I would put myself back together and be stronger than ever, and just good, right? And then I'd come back out of the woods, and maybe I would uh, write a book about it, or tell a story on a podcast, or I'd find some way to share it, if it was something that I was able to accomplish. Who knows? Maybe maybe I'm being overly confident. Maybe I'd be in a ravine somewhere, with the crows flying over me. But then, well, at that point, that was an okay option. Wasn't the option I was aiming for, but if it was to happen, well, then you know it happened naturally, and I didn't have to do it. So wouldn't be suicide then, right? Um, but yeah, in the end of it all, that was not the option that I went with, thankfully. Not that I mean, could have worked, but I'm glad I didn't have to find out. I was able to conceive a third option in my desperation for an alternative. And that third option was kind of along the lines of my whole idea for the journey into the woods. It was the Great Reset. Like I had to reset something. Something had to be reset. And if I couldn't reset all of the input in my environment, well, then what can I reset? Me. I can reset this. I can reset this. I can do that. You can do that. It's not easy, but you can do it. My state of desperation made it easier for me. For I already had no freaking clue. Everything I had thought I knew about the way reality worked had been proven wrong to me, And no, so I didn't really have much I was going on anymore. Everything, the way I was living my life just seemed to be keeping me in this loop of hell. So obviously there are some things that I am doing wrong, right? Obviously there are some things that I am doing that are not in the best interest for me. So the Great Reset was just a reset of what I thought I knew, and this cling to the idea that I know anything, and nothing was off the table for being examined, for being taken apart, for being experimented with. I mean, my food, the way I ate, how I ate, when I slept, how I slept. Apologies. My poor cat is having a rough night. It doesn't sound fun. Are you okay? I hope she's okay. Hope it's just a hairball. She can't get up. Um, and the way I was living my life was there something was wrong with it, obviously, or I would not be in the state that I am in. I had to quit being a victim, and that was one of the vicious loops that I did break, that I was able to break, but one of the vicious loops that had to be broke. Yeah, you have to quit being a victim. And I was a victim for sure, and I lived a victim mindset all of my life. I was raised in the victim mindset. It's all I knew, and really our society enforces it to some large degree. Um, so I blamed everything, and everybody else without ever looking this way. Right? It's always out there. Well, out there is always going to be there. And there's always going to be options available that don't jive well with your state of being, you know. So you have to be willing to forget everything you thought you knew, willing to completely do a power on reset up here. Not really, don't hit yourself over the head or anything else like that, although that did happen to me. It was an accident. It wasn't nothing I intended. I wonder though, sometimes, like, it was a bad one. um, but it was well into my healing journey, so it was not what what what, what helped in the moment. Seriously though, I'm trying to stay light and joke around a little bit. These are very deep waters we're swimming in here. So you know, I'm going to try to make light where I can, and because it helps. It helps, and it's worth it. Uh, but anyway, so you have to be willing to reset everything you thought you knew. I've done said that a few times now. So, um, and that's what I did. That's the path I chose. I chose to completely reset my life, to completely start piece by piece, and really thoroughly going and examining the entire way I lived my life, from the time I woke up to the time just continuously. Uh, the first And you have to be willing to in this process to attempt to see your situation from a different window, from a different point of view than your current one. And this is integral to this process, and it will continue to be integral to the process the entirety of the way, right? Because always, in order to get to that next level, you have to first start to be able to see on that level, right? In the mind's eye, in here, you know. It's like, I believe it was Einstein, if I'm not mistaken, said you can't solve a problem on the same level of the problem. You have to elevate yourself to a higher plane. It's not an exact quote, but that's the gist of what he said. And that firmly and fully applies here. Perspective is an extremely powerful tool in this process. It is one of the guiding tools in this process, for in the ability to view yourself in your past from different windows of perspective. You will be able to sort out the reality of the events and the wisdom or the nugget of learning that it contains for you. And then once you have exercised that item and you have gleaned that golden nugget of wisdom, right, that this knowledge, this lesson, and you elevate yourself out of that issue. You level up. You fully exhaust the energy of whatever that said item was, and it's no longer kept in that dark closet of yours. It's no longer kept in your heart. It's no longer kept in your vessel. It's now free to be energy again elsewhere. In any type of energy. For it does not have to go on continuing to be trauma, or whatever the case may be. I think that's a good stopping point for the night. Well, maybe we just keep on for a little bit longer. Along with perspective and the changing of it, there's also another key ingredient to this process, especially the beginning stages. And that is belief, which is extremely difficult to find when you're at your deepest and darkest. Belief that there is a way out. Belief that you can change. Belief that you can figure this out. Belief that you can put yourself back together. You can do it. I work. You can do it. You don't need anybody else, you know. And I don't mean that to say that you don't need anybody to help you along this process, but you don't need anybody to believe in yourself. You don't need anybody, and there's no one else that's going to do this for you, even if you have support, even if you have guides, even if you have a therapist or whatever have you may. They're not going to do this for you. And if you don't believe that you can do this, well, then guess what? You will never accomplish this. And you will always be stuck in whatever cycle of healing on a lower level. And Sure, it might be better than the cycle that you were stuck on in the beginning, and hey, that's a win. But you're never really ever going to get anywhere. You have to believe in yourself. And I think we will stop this here for the night. If anything, this will remind me where to pick up the next one. So I think that's a good stopping point for the night. We'll pick back up where we left off and continue this journey slowly but surely. I hope this finds you well, and I hope you find it helpful. Until next time, goodbye.